Thank you. Good morning and welcome. This is the call to order for the Buncombe County Planning Board on March the 16th, 2026 at 9:31 a.m. And we'll begin with a few announcements. Today we have two opportunities for public comment. First will be our general comment period following the approval of the minutes. This comment period will be for any issue wishing to be presented to the board, except for comments pertaining to the flood damage prevention ordinance text amendment. Those comments can be made and heard during the comment period specifically for the public hearing for the flood damage prevention ordinance. And if you wish to speak during either of these comment periods, please sign up on the sheet for your specific issue, either the flood damage or general comments. And there are sheets on the door available for you to do that. And that's so we'll know who's speaking. And each speaker will be asked to state their name and their general area of the county where they live, and will have 3 minutes to share their concerns. Also today, to ensure there are no conflicts of interest by board members on any of the issues we may vote on today, I'll review the North Carolina statute of 160D-109 regarding conflicts of interest for appointed boards. Members of appointed boards shall not vote on any advisory or legislative decision regarding a development regulation adopted pursuant to this chapter where the outcome of the matter being considered is reasonably likely to have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact on the member. An appointed board member shall not vote on any zoning amendment if the landowner of the property subject to a rezoning petition or the applicant for a text amendment is a person with whom the member has a close familial, business, or other associational relationship. Is there anyone who would have an issue with that today?
No.
Very good. And I think the staff does have some announcements to make as well.
Good morning, Chair, Planning Board members, members of the public. Just a couple of quick updates. One is make sure Planning Board members, you park in your parking lot here, not on the street. We had a Planning Board member get a ticket. So I can work with the ones that are issued by our parking provider, and you all have a little something placard you can put on your dash. So just remember to do that. And you're probably wondering when we're eventually going to merge over to the new boardroom. They're still working on a lot of kinks. I think we're close. The latest issue was some echo noise, and they brought in the specialist to try to address that. So we'll keep you up to speed as much as we know and try to get you over there as soon as possible.
Thank you. And I don't think we have any more parking things.
Okay, we'll make sure that Aaliyah will get you some, and
Okay.
make sure that those are of a prominent color.
Very good. Thank you.
Just a reminder, Aaliyah sent you guys a message about the School of Government training, and if you are going to sign up for that, if you're going to sign up for that, let Aaliyah know so we can get you registered.
Okay.
Remind us of the dates.
I will. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's April 28th. I think it's April 28th. Okay. Well, we'll hope to be in the new building maybe next month.
Maybe early summer.
Oh, wow. That long.
This year.
Yes.
Okay. Because they keep moving the parking spaces out there too.
I understand. It's frustrating.
Okay. Not your problem. Now we'll have the roll call of board members, and we'll begin on my right to the end.
Jay Marino. And Con.
Nancy Waldrop.
Tim Collins.
Alan Carson.
Very good. And next we need to have an approval of today's agenda.
I move to approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. The agenda's passed. And do we have a motion for the planning minute approvals from February the 16th, 2026?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Now it's time for our general public comment period. And as I mentioned, hopefully, if you would like to speak for the general comment period, you've signed up on the sheet. Is there anyone who is desiring to do that. All right. Ms. Stiles?
My name is Dee Dee Stiles, and I live in Swananoa. And I just want to say one thing. I've been studying where the debris flow started that came down through Lytle Cove. And a number of them seem to be connected to homes or roads that have been built on the steep slope up at the high ground in Lytle Cove. And I wanted to say that I really hope that the planning department is looking at connections between where debris flow started and where there has been steep slope development. Because I think those two things are connected, and we really need to work on making sure that we don't put ourselves in the position for the next time there's a heavy rain event like we had in 2024, that we're going to have more debris flows from even more places on the mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Anyone else? Very good.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Decter, and I live in Swananoa. And I just thought I'd bring to your attention that and you probably may or may not know this, but there was a meeting last week about a greenway in Swananoa area. And there's a funded feasibility study for the greenway, which will be conducted over the next 12 months. The study area will extend from Warren Wilson campus to Grovestone, about 6 miles. It will include Owen Park and Swananoa. Equinox Environmental, a local business, is performing the study. Last week, Equinox, Connect Buncombe, Friends of the Fonta Flora Trail, and others presented information regarding the proposed greenway. Fonta Flora Trail is an officially designated North Carolina trail that will eventually connect Morganton to Ashland.
Thank you very much. I think that is getting some news coverage, so that's really nice. Okay. Any other general comments? Then we'll close this session of our meeting, and we will move on to the public hearing for ZPH 2026-00002, which is the Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance Text Amendment. Buncombe County is proposing to amend Chapter 34 of the Buncombe County Code of Ordinances to clarify uses allowed with the Special Flood Hazard Area, SFHA, specifically the floodway and non-encroachment area, add clarification definitions, as well as changes to the following sections of the ordinance. Article 2, definitions, Article 5, Section B, specific standards, and Section F, floodways and non-encroachment areas. And we'll begin with a staff presentation and then open it up for the public hearing.
If it pleases the board, before Ms. Lee gets started, I just want to point out a couple of things. One is, since we have, you've seen a couple of presentations on this topic before. So today in your packet, we're just gonna go through the text of the changes themselves. And then we plan to advance, with your blessing, this on to the commissioners next month.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Angela Lee. I'm the floodplain administrator for Buncombe County. So as Nate mentioned, again, today we're going to go through the text amendments, answer any questions that you guys have, and clarify any items as well. So we can go through each line item that we're going to add here, and you have the packet in front of you. So under Chapter 34, Floods of the Buncombe County Code of Ordinances, Article 2, Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance, we're looking at Division 1 generally. Section 34-30 under definitions, the first change we're looking at making is to add the conveyance shadow definition. And this means an area upstream or downstream of an existing obstruction to flood flows.
I'll
Really?
just walk through it, and if they have any
Okay.
questions, they'll stop you.
Okay. That definition is taken from, directly from FEMA.gov. It's their NFIP, Appendix D. The next is the letter of map change, LOMC, means an official determination issued by FEMA that amends or revises an effective flood insurance rate map or flood insurance study. Letters of map change include, and we're going to include the definitions of the letter of map amendment, letter of map revision based on fill, and conditional letter of map revision. Under letter of map revision based off of fill, there is a Buncombe County specific definition we are adding, which is that last sentence under C. The elevated fill must meet the highest regulatory flood protection elevation of the impacted area. Again, that is something we're adding to the ordinance that will be specific to Buncombe County. That definition, the entire definition of the LOMC, the letter of map change, was also taken from FEMA under the North Carolina model ordinance definition. The next, we're looking to add the repetitive loss definition. This was also taken from FEMA, the FEMA website, FEMA.gov, under their NFIP Appendix D. Forward. The substantial improvement definition is already in our flood damage prevention ordinance. The addition is that last sentence in red, the last addition in red. And a variance is approved by the Board of Adjustment pursuant to the variance procedures as outlined in this ordinance. It is a clarification that the process must also follow our variance procedure.
Angela?
Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
On the substantial improvement, what is the county's look back period on things like that?
Currently, the look back period is for 1 year. It's for 1 year on repetitive loss and substantial improvement. It is in the next phase of changes to adjust that time period a lot based off of what we're seeing too from the combination of Tropical Storm Fred and Helene to kind of look at the trends and see if we need to make adjustments for our next ordinance phase.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving into section 34-67, provisions for flood hazard reduction. Section B, under specific standards. The text in black is what is currently present in the ordinance. We are adding and materials to include the materials requirement for the EAP and other restrictions for the temporary non-residential structures.
And as a reminder, EAP stands for Emergency Action Plan.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Moving into section 34-70, floodways and non-encroachment areas. The text in black is what is currently in our ordinance, and we are adding to the end, number 5, no new travel trailers, RVs, or travel trailer parks will be permitted to encroach or be placed in the designated floodway and non-encroachment areas. Adding number 6, no temporary storage of floatable materials, including mulch, lumber, containers, sheds, etc., shall be permitted in the designated floodway and non-encroachment areas. Number 7, no temporary storage of junked vehicles or mechanized equipment shall be permitted in the designated floodway and non-encroachment areas. And number 8, no new development, inclusive of additions to existing buildings, shall be permitted within a conveyance shadow.
Quick question again on number 6. If there is temporary storage already existing, will that have to be removed, or is that grandfathered in?
Well, it's grandfathered in, but quite frankly, most of it is not there anymore.
Oh, I know. Well,
Right.
I'm dealing with this in Woodfin, so I'm
Sure.
curious about it.
Sure, but yeah,
General
you
phase.
have to grandfather existing uses in there, but we just found that this would be the time to close the loop on these inappropriate uses. And again, it's not the fringe or the 100-year, this is the floodway and non-encroachment areas, if you're in a limited detail study.
This is also very specific to temporary storage.
Right.
So if they had a permitted use for temporary storage, then they would be grandfathered in.
Mhm.
However, there was already a plan for that to be temporary, so at some point it would be removed and relocated, unless it was fully permitted as a continuous temporary storage.
Thank you.
Any other questions or requirements for clarification?
Just go ahead and open it up for your public hearing and then go from there.
And we will now open up the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to make comment for the public hearing? Okay. Okay.
Because I have been to the past couple of meetings where this flood material has been gone over in detail with videos on the screens. And the comment that I have may not directly relate to what we just heard, but I know that during the other sessions, there was talk about if a landowner was going to put something near the river and they wanted to make a fill to raise the land high enough to be above, a foot above the flood stage, that was going to be permitted. And I began to think about, okay, so if the river is coming along and in the past it could spread out wide and slow down, if you put if you put fill and raise it so the river can't spread out in that direction, then more of the water is going to go in the other direction, which is going to be more of a danger to the people on the other side of the river. The other thing is, suppose the guy on the other side of the river also wants to put fill. Now the river, instead of being able to spread out, is going to be contained in a much narrower channel, which will make the water go a lot faster. And I think that some consideration has to be given to how you're going to prevent that from happening, because when the water is squeezed into a narrower channel, it moves much faster. And when it leaves that channel, it's going to do a lot more damage to whoever is downstream from that. Particularly if there happens to be a bend in the river right below that, where it would just go straight across and into somebody else's property. So I do think that needs to be looked at, about how you're going to keep people opposite each other in the river from filling it up to build something on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee.
Point of clarification, if it pleases the board. Fill is prohibited in the floodway as it stands now, and we are actually strengthening the floodway standards. Fill is permitted in the 100-year or fringe. We are going to be looking at those standards as well. In fact, you're going to hear from Jillian in just a moment on numerous things in the Swannanoa Small Area Plan, including trails, greenways, and also some overlays that will be studying the provision of fill in the fringe areas. We're just not to that point yet. Also, further clarification, fill in the fringe areas is currently studied in the model. So that it's already studied in the basis of the special flood hazard area and maps. Yes, we have the opportunity to do some things to restrict that, and we are going to be looking at that in the future. It's a very delicate balance, because we also want to do things that preserve our developable land, which, as you all know, is very little. So that will be coming in the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Can I ask one little question? Does this flood thing ordinance changes, does that apply just to the Swannanoa River, or does this also apply to the French Broad?
No, Dee Dee, it applies to all special flood hazard areas. So any map special flood hazard areas in unincorporated Buncombe County, not just the Swannanoa.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, next, Mr. Vector.
Yeah, so I have a question. You know, when you consider flooding, as Dee Dee mentioned, when you constrict the waterway, you increase the speed of the river and erode the banks. And one of the big areas that became very obvious is at the Whitson Bridge, where, familiar with the Whitson Bridge? That's in Swananoa. And it's very constricted there, and it created quite a bit of damage. And ultimately, the bridge was out for the apron of the bridge was required a repair that took months, many months. So I'm just wondering how the proposal, flood amendment, will relate to an area that's prone to great destruction just because of the way it now.
Do you have any questions about that, board? I could go into great lengths to explain, and we have explained before, DOT infrastructure, older infrastructure, debris dams. That's a very complicated matter that we could spend all day on. But a 1,000-year event will create debris dams, it will create backwater effects, and it will create tremendous amounts of flooding, 800, 1,000 feet even from the boundaries of the special flood hazard area. So there's an extent of what we can and can't do when we are working with some of the existing infrastructure, specifically the Whitson Avenue Bridge and the Riverwood Bridge itself.
So it would be fair to say that all of that is being looked into.
Yes, it is being looked into, but when I will tell you, those bridges are going to stay as they are. So we have to look at things that, and you're going to hear from Jillian, and we have put a tremendous amount of effort into bringing forward in the near future some things that I think you all are going to like, some things that I think are going to add some compensatory flood storage, some things that I think are going to help to mitigate. But also as we move along, we should think of this motto, do no harm. That means that we need to preserve commercial corridors, opportunities to add housing stock, but at the same time, do things to make the community safer. This amendment in front of you is the first step in that direction on a very important matter. We did see a lot of loss of life, particularly in our campgrounds and RV parks as well. So that's what we have before you today.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Then, is there any other comments? If not, then we will close the public hearing for the flood damage ordinance and move into a planning board discussion.
I think I gave you one copy of the planning board resolution. There should be in your packet as well.
The resolution's not in there, just the language.
So whoever might want to make a motion, you could just borrow the last page, has your comprehensive plan
Okay.
alignment.
So you're just gonna indicate usual, like, a map amendment or a text amendment when you make your motion, is it consistent with comprehensive plan or not consistent?
And that it's in reasonable and in the public interest.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone ready to make a motion, or do we have anything we would like to discuss? Feelings to express? All right,
I'll make the motion if you'd like.
sure. I think.
I would make the motion pursuant to 160D 604 that we approve and adopt the public hearing draft ZPH 2026-00002, the floods consistent with the Buncombe County ordinances and the comprehensive plan.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Then the motion passes unanimously.
Who was the second? Tim? I think Tim and Ken said. Two people said it at the
Wasn't-
same time.
So,
We'll go with Tim.
vote Tim.
Okay, this will advance to the commissioners in April. They're only having one meeting in April, so it'll be the second regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Good to know.
Thank you all.
Oh, thank you. That was a lot of hard work. And now we are ready to discuss the Swannanoa Small Area Plan, which is a planning board review of the draft vision maps.
So give us 1 second.
Sure.
We're gonna pull up the website we sent you, story map. And I sent you a lot of background information. And we're gonna go right into the maps, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay,
Give me 1 second.
sure.
We need to pull that up.
Love a good word cloud.
And just to go through what's in your packet, we did a big vision map or vision workshop, design workshop for the last public engagement for this. And these are the results. And these results are what we use to draw the maps. The maps have been to the steering committee. The commissioners have seen the maps, and we're looking for your input. They've been to the technical expertise committee, and they will go out to the public in the next public engagement phase. And we'll start with the land use plan map and then move to transportation maps. And while you're waiting for maybe technology to work, if you guys would look at this,
The chart.
yes, we are proposing 2 new land use categories for Swannanoa. And this Swannanoa land use plan map would be incorporated into our comprehensive plan, land use plan map, actually. I'm trying, Neil.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll just give another shout out to the steering committee and all the work they've done for the Swannanoa Small Area Plan. It's been great to be part of that process and watch the energy that they have put into it and the public input that they have kind of disseminated to make into what I think you're going to see as a small area plan. It's definitely been a community effort.
On this chart, why is some of the text in red and some of it in black?
The red is the new language.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
going over with you guys and if the public, we are looking at this and then this first. So once she gets it up, we will, I'll show you the comparison between how we changed it. But based on public input, based on conversations with steering committee, we have looked at the detailed area of Swannanoa, and we'll do this for every small area plan, and done a much detailed look at land uses in the area to see what needed to be revised from the existing comprehensive plan map to this. Specifically, when we were looking at the Swannanoa, we were thinking about how to deal with the floodplain and how to deal with how to build resiliency in the area. And what we have come up with is a new category on the land use plan map, which is river corridor. And if you look on this side, it's intended to limit the type and intensity of new development within flood-prone areas and prioritize flood storage, wildlife habitat, agriculture, and recreation. New development should minimize impervious surface and be limited to use related to the river, recreation, agriculture, or small businesses that serve the surrounding community. Very low density, single-family development is permitted. And you can see primary and secondary land uses. And the intention for this district is to build resiliency, is to mitigate future flooding, which we hope doesn't happen, but we want to prepare for it. And we are looking at land use categories when we do other small area plans that we can copy in when we do the other small area plans. So really looking at our river corridors, where they flood, what we can do to build resiliency in those areas. Now, how this might translate to zoning, it might translate to a zoning overlay similar to how we handle steep slope high elevation or protected ridge, where we have an overlay over this area, and this area is based on the 500-year floodplain. So we regulate the 100-year floodplain in the county, but this area is based on the 500-year floodplain. And similar to steep slope high elevation, we're really thinking about limiting development, focusing on safety, and focusing on, again, building that resiliency and building flood storage and such. So any questions about that? And again, this is the land use plan category. So it's not changing the zoning, but it could lead to either creating a new zoning district or creating a zoning overlay.
So we're waiting for the website?
We are, but I don't know if we're gonna get the website.
I don't think we are either.
But if you guys get a chance, if you didn't get a chance to go onto the Story Map website, there's a slider there where you can slide and see how we changed the map based on the map that's currently in the comp plan to now. We reduced a lot of the mixed use 1 areas. We increased some of our rural community areas. And we did that based on our debris flow pathways, on our steep slope high elevation overlays. We had some mixed use 1 areas that were in steep slope that included steep slope high elevation, so we got rid of those. There are some areas that changed from mixed use 1 to mixed use 2. We're thinking about, again, where we could add density, where it's flat, where it's out of our hazards, where it's out of the floodplain. If you want to look at the walkable destination site, that is the beacon site and downtown or Old Town Swannanoa, whatever you want to call it. Based on public input from that design workshop, that area has increased. And the desire in the community is for a mixed-use, walkable downtown. And then we have added, so we increased that walkable destination center. We have added neighborhood centers. And again, just if you flip over, neighborhood center, higher intensity neighborhood center with a mix of denser housing, commercial and employment land uses, primarily intended to serve daily needs of the local community and provide important transportation connections to transit and pedestrian systems. And then you can see primary land uses, neighborhood level commercial employment and high density residential, secondary light manufacturer, missing middle residential. So these two areas, one area is if you look at the corner of Warren Wilson Road and 70, where the current housing development is. We see the potential there with the college, with those housing developments to create sort of a neighborhood center there. And then the other one is the Ingalls site and surrounding land of the Ingalls site, but really being intentional about a higher density, more compact development in that area. And again, this could be an overlay. It could be a new zoning district. It could be changes to current zoning districts or current regulations, is how we could accomplish that. The policy we're laying forward and when developers looking for where to develop is we would like these areas to be a little more intense, a little more traditional design, like maybe moving buildings up to the front, maybe putting parking in rear, maybe higher density residential, sidewalks, crosswalks, bus stops, those sort of things in these areas to create little nodes of neighborhood activity. And again, also thinking in the future as we move through the small area plan, small area planning process, this is something we can replicate for other areas in the county. Any comments? This is your chance, planning board. For comments or anything you see a problem with?
What is the benefit to moving a building forward and putting some parking back? What's the goal?
So the goal is for, it's to create more traditional design, it's to create more of a corridor. If you think about downtown Asheville, if you even think about downtown Swannanoa, the parking is not, the buildings come to the front setback. And the parking, they either have one row in front of the building of parking or parking somewhere else. So it's more about trying to create that traditional neighborhood commercial design.
I was thinking of the Staples on Merriman, which is kind of set up in that fashion, but there's no approach to the building from the front sidewalk. It's kind of a misnomer. It's designed in that fashion, but it's just a monolithic building. I hope we're not trying to do that.
No. We're trying
Seriously.
to front those buildings and those entrances to the road, to the sidewalk, to the pedestrian. Make them pedestrian focused as opposed to car focused. And studies have been done that, like, when the human eye when you're going down like corridors like that. It slows cars down automatically, it's a psychological thing. And it's more pleasing to humans to have that more traditional type design.
So it'll be more like going down a downtown street in the middle of Asheville where all those stores are. Only there will be parking behind the buildings theoretically.
Or maybe one row of parking and then the building, because we aren't talking about downtown street, we're talking about 70. But creating that more architectural focused, building focused corridor as opposed to parking focused. And everything like through the comp plan, through here, the desire is for more of that traditional design. That traditional neighborhood, whatever you want to call it, new urbanism, traditional neighborhood, it's had many names over the years. But not Staples.
That would be a
But-
bad example.
That would be a bad example, but moving those buildings, trying to stop sort of the sea of parking and move those buildings closer to the road in an appropriate fashion.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you give an example of one that you think is particularly good? If you can't, I understand.
I'm trying to think of one everybody would know. I think Trader Joe's did a pretty good job. And again, that's a city street as opposed to a county road. So it might be appropriate in these cases to have one or two rows of parking in the front and then the rest in the rear. Or one row of parking in the front and then the rest in the rear. We can try to bring you some examples when we talk about policies and actions. And you guys will eventually be looking at the code, and we can try to bring you some examples when we look at the code. I can't think of one off the top of my head where it's a good example.
I think of all those buildings right there, Trader Joe's is probably a good one because it does have a approach from the sidewalk point of view, but it feels like the Harris Teeter and the Staples just have the back of the building to the street. And I don't see where that's aesthetically pleasing or drawing. There's no door. If you're walking up the sidewalk, there's no approach to Harris Teeter whatsoever. I guess that's in my mind, a bad example of that. If it was better designed where you could approach from the sidewalk side and have the parking in the back, maybe, but I guess that's my input.
Good input.
And I've just been really pleased, again, with the whole concept of how we're going about these small area plans with the steering committees and the community input, because to my knowledge and my attending the committee meetings, what you're seeing here is pretty directly a result of all of what got discussed in those meetings. And there was a lot of pushback on a lot of things, even the vision statement. I mean, there was a whole lot of thought that people put into this, and I just think it's remarkable that we can come up with this, and it's so community oriented. And to that effect, what is left for this small area plan steering committee to do?
So their next job and then y'all's next job is to review policies and actions. We are currently working on policies and actions. The steering committee tonight is going to look at our policy problems and make sure we've defined all the policy problems correctly. And staff is currently working on policies and actions. And that will come back to the steering committee in April. And then I think the steering committee, I want to say the steering committee takes a break in May for us to do public engagement. And then the draft plan comes back to them in June.
Okay.
So in May, your policy maps and your policies and actions will go to the community for review. And in June, we'll have that draft plan to go to the groups that are reviewing the document and the policies and actions in the map, which is management, planning board, you guys, our technical expertise committee, and then our steering committee. So those groups are looking at it all every time to make sure we're on the right track.
I particularly like the river corridor addition. I think that makes a lot of sense to go ahead and zone an area that may need additional regulation down the road, depending on nature and storms and how that develops. So I think that's a really good addition to this small area plan. I also like the walkable destination center for Beacon. I think that is a great re-envisioning of a large piece of property that opens up a big opportunity to kind of reset the downtown for the next 100 years. So I like both of those really well.
Any other comments or concerns? Okay, it's gonna create a lot of work for you guys when you start drafting ordinance. So the next set of maps you guys need to look at are, this is our first,
This one?
our first set of transportation policy maps in the county. And I'm gonna have you look at this one first. And again, this is based on public input from that design workshop. And this is our draft sidewalk and bike lane priority. And just a reminder that the county does not control roads, that NCDOT controls roads, but NCDOT is slowly moving towards the complete streets concept. And if you have it in your plans and they do road improvements, a community can request that those complete street aspects get built with those road improvements.
Wow.
So that being said, you can see where we have sidewalk priorities, our teeny tiny amount of existing sidewalks, and then bike lane priorities, and the potential greenway feasibility study that, I'm sorry, what was your name? Jeff was talking about. And potential greenway and sidewalk connections. Very important to the Swannanoa community that that corridor along 70 have a sidewalk. I will tell you that we have received a grant for some of the downtown area sidewalks. And we are working on, our economic development team is working on a grant to apply for a grant for federal money due to the storm recovery for sidewalks along 70. So just a reminder, this isn't feasibility. This is hopes and dreams, but that's what, you know.
Yeah.
Make big plans. So the community really wanted that priority along 70. The community also, the priority where Owen Park and the schools are along Old 70. Also our Parks Department was interested in that Old 70 corridor because of the park. And we are drafting this plan and drafting these priority maps with the intention of trying to take advantage of what NCDOT has in place in order to create more sidewalks and bike lanes in Buncombe County.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Any questions about that one?
It's a lot of sidewalks.
It is a lot of sidewalks. And I'll remind everyone that we are doing a pedestrian plan. So this won't be the only place where we as a policy are saying that the county wants sidewalks. It's become a priority of the public. It's clear in the comp plan. It's clear in Swannanoa, we talk about sidewalks, that sidewalks are important to the community. Part of growing as a county and becoming more dense and more urban.
One quick question. on this map, you have these circles that are kind of potential greenway sidewalk connections. And the river runs completely through that. Have y'all given thought to putting the sidewalks and the bike trails along the river
Yes.
for feasibility and for land availability?
Mhm. And it could be that, and that goes back to the Fonta Flora Trail and that connection. It could be that we don't build a sidewalk in a certain area because a greenway runs through that area. Or it could be we connect two greenways with the sidewalk. So it's really creating that connection from Black Mountain to Asheville down 70. But especially that 70 corridor, I mean, if you've ever been down 70 recently, you see the boat trails where people have created the paths along the road. The safety issue on 70, that's why there's such focus on that road for sidewalks.
A lot of people walk along that road.
Mhm.
I work out there. I'm there every day.
Mhm.
Almost hit a guy the other day because he was, I think, a little tipsy. He was walking right in the middle of the road.
Mhm.
So,
So
yeah.
that's why we're trying, that is a big priority, is that 70 corridor, just from a safety.
So this would be a
aspect.
continuous greenway
Huh?
from this will be a continuous greenway from Black Mountain all the way to,
So this is just a feasibility study.
no, I know it's a
Yeah.
it's
So
a
there's
wish.
Fonta Flora, and it's a state trail. The Fonta Flora, the original, the plan for the Fonta Flora is to connect from Morganton all the way through Marion, all the way through Old Fort, up the mountain to Asheville eventually. And sections of it are built in Marion and Morganton around Lake James. And there is a big push in Swannanoa to start building that greenway section in Swannanoa.
Any other thoughts?
It's good stuff.
Just saw the trail in Morganton. It's very well done, so I'm a proponent of that.
It's a lot of sidewalk.
It is a lot of sidewalks.
Are there any funds to do any sidewalk improvement in this transportation map immediately?
So like I said, Beacon, we, post-disaster funding is very interesting. And you apply for what you can, these grants that come out. And there was a grant that was infrastructure repair. And if you see the sort of reddish dark color, those are the existing sidewalks in downtown Beacon Village, so along Whitson Avenue. And we were able to get a grant to repair that section of sidewalk. So that section of sidewalk has funding. NCDOT is involved, of course, they would build it. And so that sidewalk is being built. There is another grant that's for economic development for small businesses. And that is where we have applied for the 70, or we are going to apply for the 70 corridor. So as funding becomes available, we are taking advantage of it. And then you have to remember that when DOT just does a big road project, you can take advantage of them building the sidewalks then. So the county is taking advantage where we can of the ability for NCDOT to build sidewalks on NCDOT roads.
Most of US 70 is built though. What does that mean for funding since we're looking at an existing road from Black Mountain to Asheville?
So that's where we're applying for that Department of Commerce grant to build it outside a road repair cycle. But when we get into those road repair cycles, this is like the comp plan, it's laying the foundation for 20 years. So as we get into those road repair cycles, or if DOT takes on a more proactive role in complete streets where they're retrofitting streets as opposed to just doing it when they're doing repairs, will be ready. Like, our conversations with DOT is make sure it's in your plan, make sure you're clear what you want, and when those programs become available, we'll be ready. And this also, I tell people this about plans all the time, but it also allows you to apply for grant funding that becomes available if you have it outlaid in a plan. And you can say, we as a community have said we want this. So it allows us to look for outside funding.
Is there anything else we need to do with this morning, or where do we leave this?
I'm just looking for your comments and feedbacks or any changes you guys want to make.
Okay.
And what about this second map?
I'm going to get to the second map.
Okay,
Are we good with this map?
Yep.
Yay sidewalks, yay bike lanes, yay.
yeah,
Yes,
yay.
very yay.
So this second map is draft transportation improvements. And this is
Traffic
really, there are many safety issues along that 70 corridor. So this was a map we created to make, again, it's making DOT aware, it's making developers aware that we want to focus on pedestrian safety. So we have multimodal safety improvement areas that we've designated.
Pedestrian and bike safety, I
Yes.
assume.
Yes. Traffic calming areas.
What does
And
that
then-
exactly mean?
So traffic calming, it can be a wide range of things. And DOT has very specific things they will, as part of their program, do. It's not a real widely used program, but we wanted to put these in here to make sure, if the chance arose, we could do some traffic calming. DOT's traffic calming is more like guardrails and caution, caution cones and that sort of thing. So not really like, if you think about like Kimberly Avenue or some of the traffic calming that the city can do.
It's like bump outs.
Yeah.
Roundabouts, that type of stuff.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. But it could be, it could be requiring developers in that area to do more landscaping along the street. It sounds sort of weird, but, it's been proving that like landscaping and street trees produce people speed.
Of course we do.
So
Really?
it might be on our end requiring something like that in these areas.
Landscaping and street trees slow traffic
So do the buildings,
closer to the street.
Yeah, all that stuff, slows traffic.
And by street trees, are you talking trees planted in a street median, or are you talking on the edge of the road, or what?
In this case, it would be the parking lot landscaping, because you gotta remember, we don't control NCDOT's right of way, and they are very particular about what you put in their right of way.
Well, this is very ambitious because between, I don't know, Buckeye Cove Road and exit 55, is that the one in Otine? It's like an interstate. I try to all
One
the time,
thing
it's
to
like an
point out
interstate.
is, we have asked, and we've actually already requested this with DOT. Again, this is a safety issue, is we have requested speed limit reductions along 70, so that's already in process. That was another thing that the community.
What is the speed limit on 70?
So part of it is 55 and part of it is 45, and we've
Okay.
requested that 55 part.
Be reduced to 45?
And per our conversations with DOT, they were, not contentious about it, but it has to go through the process.
The process.
But we've already requested that. So any questions about this one?
These things that say pedestrian bridge improvements, are we adding a whole bridge or what?
So these are existing bridges where we think it would be appropriate if they do repairs to those bridges to include pedestrian crossings or improve those pedestrian crossings. So a sidewalk along the bridge, a walkway along the bridge.
And there's two of those that I see here.
There's four.
There's four. There's a couple other ones. Up by
Oh, I
Oak
see
Park.
it up on the other side.
Jillian, just remind, it's a little less relevant, but the resilience policy area around Black Mountain, for instance, what will be the actual consequence of that?
So we are talking, you can see from like the resilience area, you can see that the river corridors goes into those areas. We've also reduced the mixed-use neighborhood and increased some of the rural community. And we're looking at policies like how in those areas do we either incentivize or maybe require conservation subdivision design? Where do we require, we want to look at our steep slope high elevation and protected ridge and see where we can shore those up, see where we can incentivize resilience. We want to look at the debris flow pathways and see if or how we regulate those. We want to, in those debris flow pathways, we've been talking to geotechnical engineers, we've been talking to geologists, and one thing they say is keep people away from the water bodies in those debris flow pathways. So what they're suggesting is 300 feet from those water bodies if you're in a debris flow pathway. So if there is a landslide, you're out of that field for the landslide. So we're looking at all sorts of different ways to sort of evaluate and change if we need to the regulations we have. Try to incentivize, we always try to incentivize before we try to change regulations, incentivize more conservation of land and require where we need to for safety reasons.
Do we have a map of the debris flow areas that you're talking about?
You can, they are available online.
We don't have it.
No, you don't have it in that. If you, the story map that Shannon, that I sent you guys the link to, there's a map in there if you go through the story map of all the hazards, including the debris flow pathways. But if you want to look at them separately, it's on our county GIS site, our public-facing county GIS site.
Thank you.
And I mean, one thing we are talking about in policies and actions, just to give you a heads up of what will be coming to you next month, is we have some policies and actions relating to informing the community of risk. Like these maps, like the hazard maps, have existed forever. They've been publicly available, I think, since 2010. But just making the community aware of them, making the community aware of risk, making the community aware of, when you build in one of these areas, the risk associated with that. And that includes floodplain and our steep slopes and our different pathways. Any comments or concerns for the maps?
Very informative.
Yeah.
So,
And I will be bringing you guys, just be aware that next meeting will be probably a longer one. I will be bringing you policies and actions to review that month. So be prepared for, I'm going to try to send them to you as soon as possible so you have time to review them. but we will be going over those at the next meeting.
Okay.
And I think that's all we have.
Very good. Any other questions from the board?
Really good stuff.
I think so. Appreciate all your hard work. It has been a lot of work.
It shows,
Yeah,
It does, it really does.
yeah.
it shows.
Okay. Then if there's nothing else, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?